welcome to the City of Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting of July 15th, 2024. We'll start the meeting with a roll call, please.
Sue Scamballeri here.
John West here.
Randy Cassidy here.
And Deborah Meyerson here. And staff present, please.
Margie Rice with the legal department.
Anna Hansen with hand.
Christina Finley with hand.
Anybody else?
Jessica.
With engineering.
Kendall Kanoki with the engineering.
Jessica McClellan, City Controller.
Anybody online? We're good. Thank you. And next we will look at the minutes on the agenda from July 1st, 2024. And any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
A first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And roll call for Randy. I guess we should do roll call because Randy's online.
Sue Scamballeri, yes.
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. Passes unanimously. Next, we'll do the examination of claims. We've got the claim register for July 19th, 2024. Any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I've got a question, and I've already teed this up, so Anna's ready to go. Page 8, Fund 439, two payments, $26.71 and $34.44.
I have that as page 2 of the claim register, yes.
2 of the claim, that's correct.
So we're talking about Hannah, Wagle, and Klein Engineering, is that correct?
Yes.
That's for the First Street reconstruction. On October 3rd, 2022, the RDC passed a resolution 2266 to hire HWC as the construction inspection consultant for the First Street reconstruction project. This is pay applicable to number 13 for those services. After approval of claims, this contract will have paid out $139,649.94 and have a remaining obligation of $293,351.26. The project is partially funded with federal funds, and the city has entered into an NDOT LPA agreement in order to use those funds. A part of that agreement is that the city must provide construction inspection for the project. HWC has 2 inspectors that are assigned to the site and accounts for the day-to-day construction of the project.
And then the other one was $34.44. There's 2 of them.
And I believe that one, hang on, let me get to it. My apologies. That one was the Rundell, forgive me if I say it incorrectly, Ernstberger Associates, Inc. That's the RDC approved resolution 2245 on July 18th, 2022 to hire them as the construction inspection consultant on the Hopewell East project. This is pay application number 20 for those services. After approval of the claims, this contract will have paid out $578,302.39 and have a remaining obligation of $596,437.61. Although this is a locally funded project, it was determined that the scale of the project required the city to have a full-time inspector on the project. REA has assigned 1 engineer at the same thing. So both of those have been clarified. Now, John, I think you had one other question as well.
I had that. I knew what it was.
Okay.
I didn't need to have asked that.
Any other questions?
Okay. I've got a question, same thing on 439-1374 on Richardson Inc. Is this our second payment to them on our demolition portion? And after this change order for the transite is either approved or not approved, will that close that contract out, or is there still more to be done?
I don't believe that we've received all of the claims to pay them out fully. So, because I think that there were some invoices that were hanging out there for Renaissance that had not been paid to date. So that payment in the claim register is, I believe, partial to catch them somewhat up. Deb Kuntz or Mary might be on to help
Deb
clarify
is.
as well.
There's Deb.
You're muted.
Yeah, I can take that, Deb. Yeah, this is the second change order. This is unrelated to
Mayor,
the
this
previous.
is, they're talking about the pay up first.
We'll pay it first, we'll get the change order.
Oh, I apologize. There are more payouts. I think,
There's more payouts coming.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is we go into the change orders, is the change order amount is still good for 714, will that still be applicable if this is paid out?
The change order that we have.
I apologize, not the change order, the amount of what they had committed to tear 714 down for, which.
You're talking about the alternate bid, I believe, Mr. Cassidy, that, was identified, that was around $200,000-ish, I think, something like that, that they offered as an alternate bid to tear down 714, and it's an alternate that the RDC chose not to move forward with based on our recommendation. So I believe our time has passed for that alternate to be accepted as the current price. I'm confident that they would be more than happy to re-quote it, but because they are almost complete with their work, that alternate was only good if they were to do it while they were still on site doing their other work.
Okay, thank you.
Any
That's all.
other questions from commissioners?
So with those explanations, I would make a motion for the claims for July 19th, 2024.
To approve them?
Yeah, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Okay. Second.
I have a first and a second. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Sue Scangalori, yes.
John West, yes?
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. Passes unanimously. Next, we have the payroll register from July 12th, 2024. Any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of the payroll register as presented for July 12th.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Sue Scangalori, yes.
John West, yes?
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. Passes unanimously. We'll go to the reports of officers and committees. Is there a director's report?
There is not. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any report from legal?
No, same, I'll be happy to answer questions.
Okay. Looks like treasurer's got something for us.
See a laptop and a detailed spreadsheet.
That is our usual just fund balance update. Christina, I think that they received the TIF project update sheet. Okay. So did you receive the project update sheet with the blue headers?
Yes.
So
thank you.
that is what I just wanted to go over with you quickly today. The first item on that is Hopewell, and the RDC, Christina, and the controller's office and Christina, the hand department and engineering, we went through all of the Hopewell expenses that we have POs open, that we have ever had open POs for, and that is the 28 million that this body has committed to for Hopewell. And then we were able to subtract out what has been expended, the 17 million that has been expended, and there's a remaining of 7.6 million to be expended on those open POs that this body has approved for Hopewell. Now that is not, 28 million is not the total cost of the Hopewell project. There are many other parts of the project, such as whole sections like Hopewell West, that this body has not approved like a lot of projects on, but that fund commitment is paying for what is going on right now.
Is there, and has there ever been, just because I'm not familiar with it, an estimate of what that total cost may be, one, and two, what resources there are in terms of income, in terms of RDC commitment that would cover that? I mean, I realize there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm just trying to say, how do we know what we need to know and when do we know it?
I think the best way to know what we can commit to is to look at like a cash flow for the year of TIF, and we do have that in the controller's office and it needs to be updated with these numbers. And so we can look at what we've already committed to the TIF, what we can estimate what our revenue is every single year and our bond payment commitments that we have. And we can look at what a reasonable cash flow is in the TIF every single year, and then you will know how much you can commit every year. To spread it, and if you commit it now, let's say if you commit it this year or next year, how long will that project last? And then we will spread that commitment out over that many years. And then you will be able to see how, you will be able to adjust your cash flow, and we'll be able to make some decisions that way as a group.
It'd be great to have that
Okay.
kind of accounting set up.
Okay.
Or even as we have individual commitments come up, to have it
Yeah.
compared against that balance. Just, again, I realize there's still a lot of unknowns, but just
Yeah.
trying to have something to kind of compare against.
And then about the additional, like what is the additional projects needed to do in Hopewell, there's so much negotiation still going on with those because it's negotiation with developers. So we're putting a lot of city money into certain areas like Hopewell East, and those streets around Hopewell. Well, the negotiations could be with developers. Are they going to put in the streets into those blocks and into their development? So, this body has not committed to building those new streets, through those blocks. But we can show that we have, that this body has committed already $28 million of, we estimate it's like, it really depends on so many things, $36 million total. I mean, and it'll keep climbing as time goes on and as different, the scale of projects or what needs to be done. There's so many things like environmental considerations that the unknowns are really huge. So it's not a firm answer, but that's, there's a lot to do. Mm-hmm.
And that 28 million includes the purchase from the hospital, correct?
What was your question, Mary?
Does the 28 million include the purchase from the hospital? It does?
It does,
Oh, good. Okay.
but
I'm like, oh.
the final payment isn't in there because we haven't paid it out yet, so.
Right, but it would be.
Yes, there is a final
It's
payment.
part of the
Commitment. Right.
Yes, it is part of the commitment. And there is a final payment to be made. Great, thank you, Christina. Yes.
But you will notice too, in the packet, there's an Exhibit B that's attached to every one of the resolutions that has an estimated full cost of the project.
Right.
At roughly almost 38 million. And just a note, we'll get into this when you're getting to improve the resolutions, but that Exhibit B is a work in progress. And so the staff and Deb's on this call, we had a prior conversation with her staff, and Deb will get together and compare our numbers and make sure that we're on the same page. But there are going to be updates to that Exhibit B. So tonight, when you're approving your resolution, all the resolutions are correct, the numbers are correct in that, but that Exhibit B is going to be updated. And as it says on it, it's sort of an estimate. And I think Roy and Anna and legal and the controller will all get together and bring you an updated version.
Did I hear that correct, that on Hopewell East, the roads are not included today?
I didn't say that. I said Hopewell.
West.
Oh, West? Yeah.
Well, you said that
Yeah.
some of the inner roads haven't been determined who will pay for them.
Correct.
And because I think that, it's still up in the air as to what's gonna get developed.
Correct.
Okay, even though we have the main infrastructure in Hopewell East, so we've got a good idea of what our overall infrastructure will be on Hopewell East. Hopewell West, we're still in determination, except for 3rd Street and Jackson Street.
I'm definitely not the expert when I've been trying to get the numbers together for you, but as far as what the projects are and where they are, especially with infrastructure, Deb and engineering are definitely the experts on that.
Kendall or Roy, do either of you want to address that?
I can address it. Hopewell West, we have designed up to 60%, but we are only currently pursuing the construction of phase 1, which is Jackson Street, adjacent to the core building. The rest of the infrastructure, even though it's designed, is unfunded for construction at this time.
Okay, so that 37 million will more than likely go up, we just don't know by how much specifically or estimate. That's gonna be the working process that we'll be working on through the administration.
It could, Randy, it could go up, or as Jessica said, we might be able to negotiate with developers to pay for some of those infrastructure costs.
Right. When we end up, it passes along when we're looking to do the affordable housing issue there. Anything that developers do will end up being passed on to the end user. So that's why I'm trying to get a good handle of where they are total dollar amounts. Thank you.
And then I can move down the sheet a little bit more. The Trades District Dimension Mill / Garage, that project is pretty much complete. We do have one open PO with a balance of that $49,000. We're working on tying that off and making sure everything is settled, close that, and then that project will come off this sheet.
Question.
Yes.
A couple of meetings ago, we approved about $770,000 in tenant leasehold improvements for the first floor of the garage. Where does that show up?
With Compass, that'll be added to that. So
Okay.
Compass, you're talking, I think, about the contract for the tenant build-out.
Yes.
That contract has been sent to the contractor, so that'll probably be an update to this. I don't know, I don't know what conversation the controller's been in.
Well,
that
it's
or
been
not.
committed. So
Yeah, it has, 700,
so
it'll,
49 is not the balance.
Yeah, okay.
that'll be updated.
Yeah, once the executed contract is received, it'll be updated.
Okay. Technology Center, now called the Forge. We have an update from ESD that as the project managers for that project, they've told us that the RDC fund commitment is $5.89 million. And just from looking at our expenses, all that's been expended from the TIF funds for that project is $678,000, so there's a large remaining balance on that project. And then the Beeline Trail Extension project is a federally funded project also, so they, I believe this is the one that the city is paying for a construction inspection on this one. So these are going to be our inspection costs, and NDOT, the state, is funding the build of the construction. So, and then we just have a few more things that are just annually budgeted into the consolidated TIF fund, which is property appraisals and a contribution to the Buzzkirk Chumley Theater. So we will continue to work on keeping these updated as contracts come in and updating those POs and balances. Okay.
I've got a question, you might be able to answer this. RG, and BCT reminded me of it. The city's involved with the Waldron, and I didn't know where that was expensed.
I can definitely answer that.
I don't know the answer to that.
You mean whose budget it's in? Yeah.
Is that part of what we do?
That
Or
may well be ARPA dollars.
Those
The Waldron.
are one-time shots, so.
No, I thought we had ongoing maintenance at Waldron.
Ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, well, I haven't looked into it since I've been back this year. I remember the days when we were getting rid of it, and now it's back.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what you and I remember.
Yeah, and now it's back, and so we can give you an update at the next meeting about
Okay.
what our ongoing expenses.
Well, the next time we
Yeah.
do this, we
Yeah,
can-
whose budget that's in. Yep.
Would you like this monthly? Is every 2 weeks?
That's probably.
Monthly, do you think?
Isn't
Okay.
there also the Prower TIF? I mean, I realize it's not active in
No
the same
active
way,
projects.
but just in terms of just keeping it on the radar of like, even if it's just, you know,
No
Yeah.
change.
no,
Of
just so
course.
that it's kind of continually in the record so that if someone's looking at it, doesn't get kind of,
Yeah.
and at some point we'll have to figure out
Mhm.
what to do with it, so.
Okay, I'll add that too.
And do you want to mention to them, your work with Reedy? That might be, in terms of looking at TIF, have you shared that with them yet?
No, Reedy Financial Consultants comes and they did the update in November last year. We are meeting, Anna and Christine and I are meeting with them soon to talk about that TIF budget that we need to approve and about TIF planning. So like the cash flows and the projects that are going through the TIF are going to be part of that discussion. So we'll get some good tools to use with them. We'll give you an update on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So to answer Jessica's question, how often do we want to see this? I'll throw something out, just, I think the first meeting of every month is plenty. That's my opinion, but.
Monthly's fine with me. Whenever we get it.
Could we say monthly, but use your judgment if there's a big change in something
That's
that merits our attention, let us know.
Definitely. Okay.
That sounds good.
Great.
Thank you for that treasurer's
Thank you.
report.
Yeah, real quick question, Justin. Is there any anticipated needs for the Showers West coming out of consolidated tip?
No. Showers West was, improvements there were originally budgeted as part of the public safety bond that was passed at the end of '23, I believe. And so we're going to continue to use the public safety bond to do any improvements needed at Showers West.
But the regular expenses, does that come out of the 444 account?
Yes. But regular expenses do come out of 444.
Did you hear that, Randy?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And then one last question in regards to, I think Larry, previously at one point I had heard that the redevelopment was going to need to put a budget, have a budget together. Is that something I just heard or made up?
That's what Jessica just referenced. Part of our conversation with Reedy is going to be, but yes, you do. State law now says that you have to pass the budget by the end of this year.
So it's going to be due December 1st.
Oh.
Before December 1st, there has to be, I think they're calling it a spending plan. So we're going to get more guidance is coming from the state on exactly how detailed it needs to be or how general it needs to be, but we'll get guidance on that to you.
I'd like to suggest we also consider having a work session on that rather than trying
Sure.
to sort through that in the midst of a meeting.
Okay,
Totally agree.
that's a good idea.
And one quick question on that. You're gonna have some additional assistance because there's limited personnel. You guys only have so much time, so just, will that all be done in-house or are we gonna get, Reedy's gonna help you?
Reedy's going to help us, but this group is going to be very, very involved. They can't do it without us. We'll provide the meat of it, and I think we're going to get good guidance on what is required and how the best way to present it is, or go about like making our decisions. You know, some tips on making those decisions.
They might give advice or recommendations about how other units have leveraged their TIF dollars, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for that treasurer's report.
Good update, thanks.
You're welcome.
Very good.
We've got business development updates on the list, but I don't see anybody from ESD
No,
here.
there is no.
Okay, so we will move on to Hopewell update. I know Deb is with us.
Hello there. So we don't have any new updates since the last time that we spoke. The construction, the demolition for Renaissance People Buy There is coming to a close here shortly. So thanks for the consideration of the last little bit of change we had there. And then of course, Phase 1 East continues on. I know there's a lot of conversation at the last meeting about the public offering. So that is still in review. U3 is engaged in that and more to come on that, but that is still in review. So happy to answer any questions you have.
Time frame for, are you giving U3 a time frame for them to deliver or just when we get to it?
I don't, yeah, so, but their review time is actually relatively short, so it's just making sure that we've got all the I's done, the T's crossed, and making sure all of the aspects from the city are covered, so.
Okay, so, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? Okay, thank you for that hopeful update. We're gonna move on to new business, and we have on our agenda Resolution 2450. Who would like to speak to us about this? This is, sorry, just jumping down for the change order 2 for Hopewell South.
Deb Coates is gonna handle this,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah. So this is related to Hopewell South. This is related to the demolition project on Hopewell South. There was some under slab transit that was found as the demolition was going on its final stages. And so that is a transit material that the contractor had to get a licensed contractor to remove. We got a good deal at $42.35 in terms of it's a pretty small amount, and we are asking the commission to approve this change order tonight to make sure that we can continue and close up the final pieces of the demolition project.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners on resolution?
In your opinion, Deb, are we complete with the change orders that be coming forward for this demolition?
Yep, this is it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we obviously didn't expect this. This is, if you've been in through construction, you know, we find unforeseen conditions. There was environmental testing done at everything above the soil, but there wasn't any asbestos testing underneath the soil. So unforeseen condition, but this is the last change order.
Have we had environmental testing done for underneath the slabs and where things were, or we just?
We did not do an under slab environmental test, didn't expect to see any, and so this one was found as they tore the slab.
Okay, and it's been taken back to where it's a non-transite material?
That's what this will do. Yep.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners? I'll take comments from the public. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just,
Nope, no question.
you're good? Okay, so I'm just gonna ask if there's any comments from the public. Anybody online? Okay, so not seeing anything from the public, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of resolution 2450.
Second.
And we'll do a vote by roll call, please.
C. Scambolery, yes.
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. Motion carries unanimously.
And
Next,
again, just
yeah.
a reminder that the exhibit that's attached to that will get updated.
Okay, thank you for that
And that's true
clarification.
for every resolution.
Right.
Great. Next on our agenda is Resolution 24-52, approval of amended construction budget template and amended project review and approval form for the Ready Grant for Hopewell. Who would like to speak to that?
Kendall Kanoki, Engineering Department. So as you know, we have a $1.8 million grant, a Ready grant that is paying for the first phase of construction of Hopewell West. So the grant includes a budget template that kind of gives a scope of work and then estimated budget amounts. This was originally submitted when we applied for the grant, and it was approved by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, IEDC. And as we've proceeded with design, we've come up with a few changes that needed to be made to that. So one thing that was stated originally is that we were going to complete the build out of Jackson Street 350 feet is what we said in the original application. And what ended up happening during design is we determined we really only wanted to build about 240 feet of Jackson Street because the additional 100 feet is basically constructing the intersection of the future University Street. That's all of the pavers and the park parcels and all of these things that really are kind of one complete unit from Rogers all the way to Fairview Street. And so by constructing just this little piece, we kind of have this empty section in between where we're selecting pavers, we're selecting landscaping, we're selecting potentially park amenities that we're not really doing most of the park itself. So we felt the logical terminus was really this point here where you kind of tie into the University Greenway that will be constructed at a later time. So that was the main change in the scope of work. Originally, it was only anticipated to do the portion of Rogers Street adjacent to the core building, but in this realignment, we decided it would be prudent to just go ahead and do all of Rogers at this time to complete the Rogers Street improvements, the Jackson Street, and the alley. So this supports the core building. It finishes up, we're doing First Street, we're doing Second Street, finishes up all the main arterial streets along Hopewell. So in the future, the University Greenway can be funded, and then the rest of the side streets can be funded, constructed at that time. So that is the main change in the scope of work. There's also some updates on the budget template, so design fees. In order to get this platted, we needed to actually we originally estimated we would just need 30% design drawings, but we actually needed 60% to get through all the city approvals with utilities and things. So this increases the budget for design to get that additional design work. It also includes a little bit of extra design on those Rogers Street improvements that I mentioned. And then it actually pulls out construction engineering. We're now fully staffed in our engineering department, and we are able to do the construction inspection that Ready requires in-house. We don't have to hire an outside consultant, so we're able to save some money there. So this resolution essentially is just making those updates to predominantly this construction budget template, which is in our agreement. The rest of the agreement remains the same. So the changes have already been approved by the IEDC, so now they're coming before you for approval. Happy to answer any questions.
I've got a question. At what point in time, this is above my pay grade here, so at what time do we get 100% design complete?
So we are essentially at a point where we've gotten the drawings essentially to the point where whenever construction funding is allocated, we can take those drawings from 60 to 100, finalize them, and then send them out to bid. We don't want to go any further at this point because with the phasing, you have to do design to account for, okay, we're going to build, say, University Avenue from here to here. We have to figure out how that ties into all of our existing infrastructure, how we do stormwater for just that piece of it, the interim type of construction improvements. So we really can't go any further in design until we know what we're actually going to build.
Okay, so bid drawings are pretty much 100%?
Yeah, so the bid drawings are 100% for what we're building at this time. The rest of it is what is at 60%.
Thank you.
So, Kendall, this 60% drawing, that gets us essentially to a point where we can close, or we can finish up the Bryn Show and the core building. Is that what the basis of this is?
Yeah, so the 60% allows us to finalize the plat, which subdivides the property, which allows the property to be transferred to the Bryn Shore project. And that was all required to get the plat finalized. The plat is very close to being done. It still hasn't been fully finalized yet, but.
Okay, but there's no way to do the plat without doing this additional engineering that's present.
Correct, yes.
But if something changes drastically once we get our RFP out, these may be good or they may not.
Yeah, they're pretty well detailed drawings. They show all the utilities, they show all the improvements, they show everything. But yes, the longer you wait, the more likely there could be changes in the future that need to happen.
So just to be clear on it, if we hold off on this until such time as we have any of our RFPs back,
yeah,
then we'll
typically
keep delaying the core building project.
Well, and I think just to stress, so the core building project, that's all funded, that's going to be constructed, the improvements required for that. So those 60% drawings are really just for the build out of the rest of the streets and infrastructure. So it would not affect the core building project.
Okay, but it's needed in order to get the plat.
Correct, yes.
So this is an internal issue based on the platting requirements of our ordinances.
Yes, this is what's required by our ordinances to get the plat finalized, yeah.
Okay. So we need to spend another $100,000+. Okay, thank you.
What that $100,000+ is for?
We're increasing our design contract to account for that additional design, yep.
But we're not getting 100% of the design, we're only getting to 60%. So with that at 60%, and we won't know until we determine exactly where the additional roads are going engineering that will become necessary at that time.
If I could weigh in here, Kendall, just to clarify, these costs are funded by the Ready grant, right?
Yes,
So
everything.
This is not additional monies from the, from the TIF. This is money that's coming from the already funded Ready grant. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, but we will pay out of the TIF, so that, you still have to pay it, but then you get reimbursed by Ready.
Well, yeah, but in the end, you'll be whole, because
Correct,
the money's coming from Ready.
Yeah, I understand that.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look how the dollars come in and the dollars go out. And then what the total amount is gonna be that we're responsible for in the long term, in order to get the project at 100%, not be left with a percentage and then just be wasted dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that, thank you.
Question about the language of the resolution, and this originated when I was not on the RDC, but we refer to it as amended construction budget template. Are we amending the budget or the template? Because the way it's referred to here, we're amending the template, and I don't think we are. I think we mean we are amending the budget itself. This is the second to the last whereas paragraph.
Construction budget template. So I don't think we're amending the template. You mean the form? Is that what you're talking
Right.
about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
So in the interest of being more precise, can we amend that and take that word out? Because we're not amending IEDC's template at all.
Yes, that's
So,
correct. Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
One last question in regards to this. Just what is our anticipated time from a schedule standpoint that we think we would, A, get to 100%, need the 100% drawing, and then B, do we have any idea what this overall construction cost is going to come up time-wise? Because with inflation and everything, I know we don't have a good idea. I guess the question I'm asking Ken to be very precise on is, as this has went up, from 30 to 60 and we're 154, does that mean 60 to 90 will be another 154, or it will determine what needs to be done at that time? Just, we won't know.
Yeah, so the Phase 1 Jackson Street, these infrastructure improvements that are funded by Ready, that's going to be bid out at the end of this year and constructed next year. And that's all funded by the Ready grant. The additional infrastructure that's at 60% design, I don't know how much it's going to cost to get it to 100, but that design had to be done to subdivide the property. So it was still necessary and is still valuable design work. Usually when you do a subdivision, you have to bond for your infrastructure and you have 3 years to build it. However, since the city did this design, we're not really under that 3-year timeline. But that just gives you an idea of how usually these are built out.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions or questions? I'm gonna ask to add one. I appreciated your kind of highlighting the changes in that drawing. I didn't see that drawing in the packet. It's like a 50-page packet, but I don't see the drawing in it. Is that something that would have been relevant to include? Because it was helpful for me to see you showing it, but I would have appreciated having my own copy if that would have been relevant and available.
It probably would have been nice to include this in the packet and have the areas outlined, yes.
So without you pointing it out, I don't know
Yeah.
what we would have been looking at anyway until you pointed it out. So
Yeah, I probably.
to be able to see it, I guess,
I
is
could have
that's where it
probably
would be
drawn some
helpful.
kind of boxes around these areas or something for
Yeah, or
clarity.
even if it would have been me having it in front of me, so while you're talking about it, because I'm just taking your word for what's on there, but I could have seen it or at least had any other questions that might have come up. So I might ask for any future business on this project in this regard, if we could have the relevant drawings included, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we may want to project them too when possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been ideal. Then I
Yeah.
wouldn't have needed my own copy if it was
Right.
projected.
Sure. Okay. Looks like we had questions. Any comments from the public?
I have a quick question. And I understand that when I ask a question, there's no legal obligation for anybody to provide an answer, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm working from an incomplete understanding and possibly a wrong understanding. So bear that in mind when I ask this question. Can someone maybe confirm or deny whether the core project, that housing project, through a design change to Jackson Street, slight, like, I don't know, elimination of a curve or something like that, that it had its number of units slightly reduced? Does that ring a bell with anybody?
That is correct.
That is correct?
That is correct.
Okay, do we know the number of units?
I'm not exactly sure, this predates me.
Okay.
But I am aware that the necessity to implement the Jackson Street did cut down the core building project unit numbers by, and this is a guess, I think it's somewhere between 2 and 4 units.
Okay, and that design decision, that's been
It was-
done and paid for, that's not the topic of this?
Correct. And,
Okay.
and that was a requirement of planning, per my understanding.
All right.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of resolution 24-52.
Do we need as amended or as corrected?
Since you
took the template.
Right, taking out the word
Right, so
template.
it's as corrected.
That's fine.
Okay, second.
We have a first and a second. We'll do a roll call, please.
C. Scambolery, yes?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Myerson, yes. Motion carries unanimously. Next on our agenda is Resolution 24-53, approval of amended construction, preliminary design contract I was looking at on my table of contents, but I had moved it down on my screen. So, approval of an amended preliminary design contract for Hopewell West.
Yep, Ken Okanoki Engineering. So this ties directly into the previous resolution. This is the increase in the design contract to get those drawings from 30 to 60%, and also adds that portion of Rogers Street to the design contract. And this is a design contract with Crossroad Engineers.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from commissioners? Seeing none, anything from the public? No comments from the public. I will entertain a motion, please, on Resolution 24-53.
Move approval of Resolution 2453.
Second.
We have a first and a second. We'll do a vote by roll call.
C. Scambolery, yes?
John West, yes.
I have a question before I vote. I just want to verify, was there any other additional dollars that are going to have to go? This is Crossroads, and this is the individual doing Jackson Street, correct? I just want to make sure I'm on the right engineer.
Yes, this is the consulting firm that's doing the Jackson Street design for us, yes.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Myerson, yes. Passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is 24-54, approval of payment for power relocation for Hopewell East. And who would like to speak to that?
Good evening, Roy Aiton with City Engineering Department. So this is part of the RDC's Hopewell East project. During construction, part of the project is to lay a large, I think it's a 42-inch storm sewer down Morton Street. When we got down to the point where we're making the connection to First Street, it was discovered that there is a buried Duke line, power line, that is intercepting the storm sewer. So we had to relocate that that electric line through Duke. Duke's the only one that can do the work. They've given us an estimate for $43,780.30. Once that line then is relocated, we can continue installing the storm sewer in that area.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners, please?
I have a question. Is that a pretty firm number? Duke has a habit of
The way the process,
adjusting.
Yeah, that's a good question, because the way the process works is Duke does an estimate for the work, and that has to be paid up front before they'll start doing the work, so everything's built on an estimate. So this is the bill for $43,780 that would be built off that estimate. It'll be paid, they'll do the work. I've not gone through this process for a while with Duke, whether or not they actually kind of put the charges back together and come back with us with it was over, it was under. So we'll have to wait to figure out if it'll be the final cost. But at this point, it's the cost to get it working.
In the unlikely event that they're over, do we get a credit?
We will pursue it without a doubt. After they're done with the relocation, we'll contact them for a final billing. They'll most likely tell us it was this charge.
Randy, this is up your alley. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, there's my first question in regards to, is this stopping the project continuing on with the stormwater? It's
Yeah.
stopping us, say, milestones, that's stopping them.
So it is one of the critical elements for the critical path elements on the project. So it is creating delays right now. There are other critical path elements that are making up for it. So it's not moving the final completion date, but it is something that's creating delays in that segment of the project.
Yeah, because situations like this could also put us in a potential jeopardy of a delay claim for the project. So that's my concern there, because, like anything, utilities, they're busy in the storms. Then the next question, is there any credit they're looking to give us back for the potential development? Or is that just gonna be for the included infrastructure in the future?
I don't think I understood the question, Randy. I'm sorry. The credit
Okay,
back.
The concern I'm at is with the 43,000, that's the relocation, get out of the way. But since we don't have an RFP and we haven't went through that process, we're in the middle, we don't have a choice but to move this to get the stormwater continued. But are we going to end up moving it into a point that may have to be moved in the future, is my concern.
Doubtful in this instance, because it's being located underneath the 42-inch. So it's being buried, I think, around 12 feet deep through the rock. So I don't think any other utilities will have to move it beyond that. But that's also why the cost is a little bit higher than you would think for just one relocation, but they have to relocate it into the rock. So I don't believe that it will have to be moved with any projects that are in design right now or in construction.
Okay. So essentially, we are stuck with this. It's an unforeseen condition that we've got into, and if we don't move it, we'll stop. It will stop.
That's correct.
Stormwater.
Yes.
Or you got to relay. Yeah, because you can't relay stormwater due to grade, right?
That's correct. It's a gravity utility, so we're kind of stuck where we are with that elevation.
Okay. All right, it was just unforeseen. Nobody even knew it was there at that depth. From the market standpoint.
Yeah, we most certainly didn't. So during the relocation process, there was a relocation on First Street that it was put in their correct spot, but no one knew that this was going to be a conflict. There was no earlier engineering, SUE engineering at that level, where it was potholed. We knew it existed, but we didn't know the elevation for it.
Okay. And it's not in the right of way, so they're not going to move it without a charge.
It is in the right of way, but the situation with that is it's not being moved as a conflict for the right of way, but it's being done through the development. So as a developer, we can't get them to move it at their cost. It is at our cost because we're doing it through a development.
Okay. But since the city is actually operating as a developer, then that's the position.
That's correct. Yes.
It's still a road relocation.
Yes.
And my suggestion on this one, if we're looking at it, is make it a not to exceed. We can do that. And that, because from a time frame standpoint, Roy, have they give you any time frames after this phase?
Yeah, we have met with them. They've hired Snedekers to come out and do the boring. That's on their schedule right now. Their schedule, Duke's schedule's a little in flux just because they're still making up for lost time the last few weeks. But we're thinking that it should be done within about 2 to 3 weeks.
So that'll continue to keep us on schedule.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. John, I don't, just, we're stuck. They're not gonna move it without us paying, and it'll just set.
Well, I assume that, I guess, but I've not ever faced this Duke arrangement before, so that's why I asked for your input.
Yeah, I typically be in a road right-of-way situation, but as a developer, we're kind of at the mercy of the utility.
And Randy and John, this is Sam Flanger with Monroe County School Corporation. We've been in this situation at least a half dozen times over the last 2 years, and the number that they've given us, we've never gotten a credit back. It's always ended up being that number.
Of course. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sam.
And then just to answer your question, Randy, about the do not exceed amount, it is a do not exceed amount. We won't charge the TIF any more than's already listed in the resolution. If it goes over that, I'll come back to ask for additional funding.
All right. Well, we gotta keep it moving, so.
Thank you. Any other
All right.
questions from commissioners? Seeing none, I'll see if there's any comment from the public. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion, please.
Randy Cassidy, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a first and a second. We'll do a roll call vote for resolution 2454.
Sue Scambolery, yes?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. Passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is resolution 2456, approval of agreement with Duke Energy for First Street lighting. Is that also yours too?
Yeah, also me, Roy Aiken with City Engineering. So this is part of the First Street project. A portion of the project is to install pedestrian scale lighting, streetlights throughout the corridor. The way the process works is the lighting for the city of Bloomington is owned by Duke themselves. They install the lights, and we do an upfront installation fee and the cost to install. And then beyond that, then we have an agreement with Duke for maintenance, and then Duke will do the maintenance on the lights running forward. The continuing operating cost and the maintenance agreement, that's all done through the Public Works Department. So the RDC won't see those costs, but these costs for the installation are the only costs that we're coming to this evening. And that total price for the 50 streetlights is $82,472.82.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm confused. The staff report showed 36. Am I missing something?
There's a staff report that's included with it that was for the Board of Public Works approval. Is that the?
Outdoor lighting agreements with Duke Energy. I don't know. Is that, it's attached to this
Says
resolution?
Exhibit A.
Board of Public Works.
All right, but the numbers don't jive. That's what I don't.
On the Board of Public Works, they took two items at the same time, number one, number two. One was for First Street, the other one's for West Second Street. The only one-time charge that we're in that staff report, it lists a one-time charge of $82,472.82. That's the cost of the installation. To get it approved through the Board of Public Works, they also show the estimated monthly charge and the estimated annual charges. That those funds are being appropriated by the Public Works Department. So we're not bringing that to the RDC.
All right.
What page are you looking at that's got the 36,000?
Well, the page that he's reading from, it says 31 50-watt LED fixtures.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about the staff report.
Yes.
Yeah, this is page 101 in the packet. It's Exhibit A.
Second one under number one.
And you're correct. It should be actually 31, and the resolution needs to be updated to reflect that. The resolution actually mentions 50 streetlights. That seems to be an error. That should be the installation of 31. streetlights.
Okay.
Good catch, John. That's why you earned your pay today.
It unfortunately doesn't change the cost, but it does.
Oh, I was
it is-
counting on
it
it.
is-
I'd already multiplied it out and decided that I had to go down.
Yeah. Okay, and then, are those firm charges that you're gonna have, Roy?
Are those, I'm sorry, what type?
Firm charges for the yearly cost that's gonna come out of Public Works. This is a one-time shop for us to basically install all of this, have all the street lighting on the east, Hopewell East.
Yeah, if it's firm charge, if you're asking about the ongoing charges, I'd have to look into that through the Public Works to figure out if that changes. The agreement for that street lighting's all done through the Public Works Department. The installation is a firm charge, and that's a one-time charge.
Okay, is there any, based upon what Duke is proposing from an aesthetic standpoint, has that already went through from a discussion with either the design, the engineer, or Public Works?
Yes, we did. The original plan for the job had a different design. The original one-time charge was, I believe, around $400,000. So we've kind of scaled that down a little bit to bring it down to $82,000, which we're bringing for you. So we've already gone through the design for that, so.
The design, and it still meets the base, little aluminum poles, black finish, so it's nothing of a decorative nature that we have per se, they're just streetlights.
Yeah, it's not the typical streetlights you'd see along 3rd Street, West 3rd, or anything like that with the long poles. There's certain requirements through our UDO and planning department that's dimension-wise. It is within the pedestrian scale, so it will look more like street lighting that you would see. It's not the big, tall mast or anything like that. So it's just not as decorative as what was originally planned.
Right. Because the decorative was 400,000.
I believe that's what it was. It was at a shocking amount, so we redesigned.
Is this gonna meet our overall design intent for the project as a whole?
Yeah, it meets the Unified Development Ordinance requirements for the planning department, so it does meet the design intent.
Okay, $2,600, essentially what, $2,600 a piece?
Blue, without doing the math, I'll take your word, yeah, that's.
Good catch on that, John. So, yeah, it's doubtful if it'd be, we'd have to redesign if we were gonna own everything ourselves, so, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any comment from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I'll move approval with the amended number for Resolution 24-56.
Second.
Having a first and a second, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Sue Scambolery, yes.
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes. That passes unanimously. That's all on our new business for tonight. We have an opportunity for business or general discussion. Anything that anybody would like to add at this time? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Good night,
Thank you, guys.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.